Hello and welcome to Loving Me, Myself, and Life with me, Jody Musiak. And today I want to talk about something that was very interesting. It's what happens when we shake ourselves out of the normal. Moving across the country last year was very eye-opening on so many levels. You know, it tested my strength and my relationship with my husband and just so many things. It made me realize how strong I am and how determined I am. We had so many things stand in our way per se or kind of slow us down, but it never stopped us. Anyways, the other thing was it made me realize a couple things. And one of them was living a life that is familiar. So like I said, it shook me out of the normal. And it just was like, wow, it was mind-blowing when I realized it. So when we got here, I noticed that they have really soft water here. And this might sound really simple, or you're like, yeah, I have soft water. But I grew up most of my life with hard water. Where we lived in Waterloo, we had a water softener. Sometimes we would fill it, sometimes we would forget. And it was hard water. And even with salt in the water softener, it was never perfect or like soft enough in my opinion, or like anyways. So cleaning the faucets, it would always get like this residue. Our glasses would look spotty even out of the dishwasher, like so many things. And if I wasn't living with hard water, I grew up with a well and it had a lot of iron in it. So I was always used to water being very difficult. And moving here, our dishes would come out of the dishwasher so sparkly you could almost see your reflection. When I clean, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so easy to clean. Like you just quickly wipe it. Like, you just do a little wipe, no scrubbing. I had to scrub the hard water off before. It was incredible. And then the other thing is like, I just got so used to having to drive like an hour and a half to a nice beach when we lived in Waterloo. And now I get to walk like very short distance to there, or like I can just, we have so many beaches in the area that I can go to a different one, or it depends on what you're looking for, right? There's sandy, there's rocky, there's one with playgrounds so the kids can play and I can enjoy the views of the water, like so many different things. I spent my whole life having to drive. Like my favorite family spot was 3.5 hours away. And I just thought it was normal that I had to drive that distance to go somewhere that breathtaking. I didn't realize that I could actually live in that space or even something different. I didn't realize that I could make that change. And that's what happens when we get familiar with something. It's not like we sometimes just can't see a different side. We can't see a different picture and we can't see different options. Like for me too, I actually got to a point where like I've struggled with my weight off and on for a long time. Unfortunately, I was one of those teenage girls. Looking back now, I wasn't really that overweight. I just had this really bad self image. I really could have used some extra self-love back then in the day. However, looking back, I was on so many diets. Like I did so many crazy things to my body. However, even after my son was born, I actually hit like a plateau and I couldn't lose weight at all. And I kept going up and up and up. And I finally found a way to release all that weight. And it's been really beautiful. Like I'm still obviously not at my healthy weight, but I'm working on it and it feels good. But I actually got familiar with being overweight. So we can get so familiar, so comfortable. There's this saying I really like to say that I've used quite a bit, and I really think it's on the nose. Is we can get so comfortable being uncomfortable. I was so uncomfortably comfortable living in Waterloo, Ontario, and I thought like this was it. I could maybe move a couple hours away to one of the beach communities or things like that. But my husband and I really don't like winter all that much. And anyway, so we were getting really comfortable being uncomfortable. I spent a lot of my life driving to those beaches or being upset because the summer was ending and I couldn't get to a beach, or, oh man, I have to drive 2 hours to get one way and then another 2 hours the other way. And I didn't know any different. And that's okay. But when we get comfortable and we get cozy, even if we're uncomfortable, like we can just kind of live there because it becomes familiar, becomes our normal thing. I didn't know that I could live a life without hard water. Who knew? It sure makes cleaning the bathrooms, the kitchen, and doing dishes a lot nicer. Now, we didn't move here for the soft water. It just became a bonus. But I realized that, we can live in a world of familiar without realizing there's another way. And here's the thing. I actually thought I had to live with them too. So it's crazy. So until I changed and discovered I didn't have to live that way, I didn't want to wait any longer. So I didn't know there was another way until I started changing. I really deepened a relationship with myself and I grew and I grew. And then I discovered that I didn't have to live like this if I didn't want to anymore. I could make the decision to live closer to the beach. I could make the decision to get out of to move past the uncomfortable or even feel more uncomfortable to feel more comfortable, if that makes any sense. So don't get me wrong. If you like hard water or you don't, maybe the beach isn't your thing. It is totally awesome. And, but for me, deep down inside, these things have been bothering me for years. Probably even in my early 20s. I was always, sad at Labor Day, where it's going to the beach didn't really happen. Those beach communities pretty much shut down, or it just seemed like it was Labor Day and then it was over. And it just always made me sad. And if I would have paid attention to those moments, I could have realized why they made me sad. But I really do feel like I needed to become the person I am now to make this big move. It was just something. So I'm not saying, just jump at something. But look within. If something's bothering you, it might run deeper than you think. And then it's, building that loving relationship with yourself so you can really listen to your heart. So yeah, once I made that change, wow, things just feel so good. So it's just incredible, how comfortably uncomfortable we can get before you make a change. My husband and I definitely felt really uncomfortable at a point to finally make the change. But you don't have to wait until you're so uncomfortable that you're I have to change or else, you don't have to be at those moments where you feel so desperate or so overwhelmed that you have to make the change. And this is where having that relationship with yourself is so important, because you can sit down and when you have those moments of feeling sad or angry or frustrated, maybe it's just that moment, but is it stemming from something different? Is something lacking in your life that you've been kind of pushing under the surface? Is something, your heart is destined for, wants to so desperately to have or experience that, it keeps showing up in your life in different ways. We all can fall into living a life that's familiar. And like I said, I didn't even notice how many things I was just not even just taking for granted. I guess in a way, it's just this is my life and this is how it is. And it's always been this way. I didn't know that there could be a different way until I made a huge change. So if you're living things in your life and you're oh yeah, maybe something came up for you when you're listening to this, be gentle and loving to yourself, okay? It's so important. It doesn't, just because you're lived a certain way so for so long, one, doesn't mean you can't change it. And two, doesn't mean you have to beat yourself up because you didn't change it sooner. Everything happens in time and place for a reason. If you listen to other episodes of mine, my husband and I have talked about moving for so long. My daughter was a baby and now she's 7. So sometimes a little dream happens. We have it, it's a little spark and it starts. And then something, maybe it just kind of glows very lightly, like a very little candle for a while. And then over the years, maybe it grows bigger and bigger, or something just ignited it. And now it's a huge, big bright light. And you can't look away and you can't hide it any longer. Like it's just there and you feel that calling to do so. But at every stage in our life, we have those moments. So maybe it's just like a faint, oh, I'd really like to do this, but you're not sure yet. And that's okay. It's just understanding that wherever you're living right now, taking that look and being, am I living something just because it's familiar to me? Or am I doing something just because it's familiar to me? Or do I love it and enjoy it? And this is what it is. Because like you're allowed to have a life. Like things become familiar. Like we've only lived here for about 3 months now, and the mountains are becoming familiar to me. That doesn't mean that I don't every night say goodnight to the mountains, because I do. And every morning I look out the window in the living room and I smile at them. And I love being able to see birds and bald eagles fly by our living room window. And yes, I still get excited that I can see the ocean from our living room. But that doesn't mean that things aren't becoming familiar already. But I try to lean onto gratitude, because that is what kind of keeps us moving from day to day. So life can be familiar, but it's those things underneath the surface that we might be ignoring, or that we don't realize that we have to keep living just because things have been familiar for so long. So if you feel like maybe you're in a rut, or like something's not moving forward when you want it to, you're stuck. Maybe you have big dreams and they're not moving forward. Maybe shake it up a little. Now, I'm not suggesting you move across the country. You don't have to do that to shake things up. It could even be just driving a different way to work, changing up if you go for walks, change up your walk, change up what you eat for breakfast or lunch or supper. Like just switch it up a little bit. Wear something different that you might not wear, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be big, but get out of your familiar. Take a day, and maybe even just take a personal day, whatever it may be, and just shake it up. Do something you've never tried before. Shake it up a little, and that's when you'll see that life, like sometimes we live things just because they're familiar to us. And again, like I said, maybe those are things you love. And I'm not saying like let go just of things just because they're familiar. But for me, shaking things up made me realize that I was assuming life had to be that way just because it's been that way my whole life, or a lot of it. But that's not necessarily true. We always get to make a choice of how we want to live, how we want to feel, and who we want to be. So shake things up, get out of the familiar, even for a day. Maybe you come back, you're like, nope, I like it this way. I'm staying here, tucked in under the blankets in my PJs, whatever it may be. It's okay. But shake it up a little. Let your hair down, shake it loose a little. I was a major planner, very like stuck in my ways. I had to do this, I had to do that. But I'm slowly, letting go of expectations, letting life unfold the way it's meant to be instead of controlling everything. And it's really been beautiful. So if you're like that, like, kind of like me, just take a day to let life lead you. And just, enjoy the moments as they unfold. I'm not saying forever, just a day, maybe even an hour. My husband and I used to play this game because our walks got boring where we used to live before we bought a house and had kids. We lived in an apartment. And sometimes we would like, oh, we don't know where to go. So we used to just flip a coin. I think it was a coin or a dice or a die. And we used to just flip it, and it would be like, okay, do we go right, left, straight? And it would just shake us out of our normal. Because sometimes, we can easily fall into routines, and then we miss out on the magic around us. If I would have stayed in the routine that we were living, we would not be here today, and I wouldn't be staring at the mountains and watching these stellar jays flying by. And I never thought this was possible until a short, year ago, maybe even not quite a year ago. And now here I am living it. So it's amazing what can happen when you shake yourself out of the normal routine so you can find what's unfamiliar. You never know what you'll find there unless you go check it out. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye for now.